Hey guys, it's that Dividend guy, and today I wanted to go over what is in Warren Buffett's portfolio. So, of course, Warren Buffett owns the holding company Berkshire Hathaway, and this is how they track his moves. So, the buys and sells inside of Berkshire's portfolio can be Buffett. Sometimes it's Ted or Todd, depending on the position size, but usually the biggest moves are Buffett himself, and then sometimes the smaller moves are Ted or Todd. And in the meetings and in the letters, sometimes he tells you who does it. Most of the time, he's pretty secretive about it. But he also has in the past talked about how just because it's Berkshire, there's cells in the portfolio does not necessarily mean that it's Buffett. But generally speaking, the larger cells in the portfolio are Buffett. So we're going to go over the recent buys and sells. So Apple was increased by 1.1%, so a small increase, but they already own like I think 8 or 9% of Apple. Next, Louisiana Pacific, ticker symbol LPX. They added 21% to their share count, so they increased it over Q3. Then Occidental Petroleum, this one has been in the headlines a lot because I think he's just going to try to overall buy the overall company instead of shares. So I believe right now they are the largest shareholder of OXY stock, but they added a 43% increase to their share count. So value is $17.5 billion. So keep in mind, let's look at the difference here. So Apple right now, the 1.1 is 116 billion. Then Louisiana Pacific LPX is a very small position at 416 million. Of course, keep in mind to us that's a lot, but to Berkshire it's not. Then Occidental Petroleum, number of shares 278 billion 216,498. So he has 278 million shares of Oxy right now at $17 billion. And then Paramount Global. He actually hasn't talked about Paramount at all or Louisiana Pacific from what I've seen and read in the report and when he talked about it in the past. So Louisiana Pacific kind of caught me off guard because I had never heard of that company before. Oxy has had crazy amount of coverage. And then, of course, Paramount Global. I know in the past he said that he doesn't want to look into entertainment stocks. So my guess is this could be Ted or Todd. That was my original guess. But now looking that he's adding to it, it's only 2.6% though. So it's not a huge gain. So it could be Ted or Todd. But it's a $1.6 billion position. So keep in mind, it's not super big compared to Oxy or, of course, to Apple, their largest position. So what did they sell? This is usually what people are looking for. A lot of people, he says he doesn't want people copying him, but a lot of people do copy the Oracle of Omaha when it comes to his buys and sells. So these are the companies that he has been selling out of. So first off, we have Activision Blizzard, which he did talk about this. I went to the last year's meeting and he said that he was doing an arbitrage deal. If it worked out, great. If it didn't, he'd sell the stock, right? So he owned 52 million shares. He only did a drop of 12%. So he still does own $4 billion worth of that stock. So he didn't completely sell out, just a small trim. But generally, he has said in the past that when he trims, it's to sell eventually. Next is Ally Financial. Guys, we're going to see a lot of financial stocks here. So 29 million shares owned. He only trimmed the position by like 0.5%, so he still owns 726 million. So this is, of course, like look compared to Activision, a very small position for Buffett. Next, Bank of New York Mellon. This is one of the few banks I believe that is still left. He did sell completely out of Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase. He sold out of Wells Fargo, which he had owned that stock for like 30 years. So Bank of New York Mellon is one of those that's still here. He had 25 million shares. He decreased that position by 60%. So I'm guessing overall he is going to get rid of Bank of New York Mellon. He has $1 billion in the stock. So right now that's a fourth of his Activision Blizzard position. So I wouldn't be surprised to see more financial stocks. I know he's been selling out of, like, he bought Ally Financial a few quarters ago, and he's held Bank New York Mellon, I believe, for a few years now, but he is selling massively. Next, Chevron. He owned 162,975,771 shares, only a 1% cut, so not a lot. The value of his stake still $23 billion. Next, we've got Kroger. This one surprised me because I've looked into Kroger, and it is a very simple business, something Buffett talks about a lot. So 50 million shares. So he sold out of it by only 5.3%. Crazy that amount of shares is only like 0.5% for him. Still a $2.2 billion position for him. But keep in mind, guys, he has been shedding a lot of Kroger. I mean, overall, in the grand scheme of things, it's not, but the share count is massive. Then we have McKesson. He had 2.8 million shares. He trimmed that position by 10%, so he still owns $1 billion worth of that company. Then Taiwan Semi, which everybody knows, he bought and sold it really quick. He had $8 million shares of, an 86% cut. So now he only has a $617 million position there. So very, very small, even smaller there than Ally Financial. And then finally, U.S. Bank. So this is one of those that he's held for decades. I believe he bought it during the 2008 financial crisis. 6.6 million shares, a 91% cut. So he still owns Bank of America, but U.S. Bancorp has slowly but surely been falling down. It was once in his top 5, I believe, and now, of course, it's not even close to that. So now he owns 290 million. So this is even smaller than smaller than Bank of New York Mellon. Let me look. Yeah, smaller. So he likes the Bank of New York Mellon more than he likes U.S. Bancorp, which is crazy because U.S. Bank was one of his top 5 stocks for a long time. So, guys, he has sold out of a lot of bank stocks lately. Look at that. Ally Financial, Bank of New York Mellon, and U.S. Bancorp, all pretty significant. Ally Financial was only a 0.5%, but 60% out of Bank of New York Mellon and 91% gone from the U.S. Bancorp position. Guys, honestly, here's the thing. There's been a lot of headwinds about banks, but I'm kind of surprised here to see the Bank of New York Mellon and U.S. Bancorp being trimmed so aggressively, because the last time banks went down in 2008, he bought like crazy, and he has had some insane gains on these banks. And so I'm surprised to see, because if he's selling, I mean, I don't know if he's selling at a gain for all of them, but just for the fact that he's held them for so long, I'm sure there's capital gains tax, so he's probably going to have to pay for the short-term gains of these banks, as well as I don't know if Taiwan Semiconductor is up or down based upon when he bought it, but he might have to pay a pretty big chunk of change for that sell. So, guys, I'm honestly not surprised to see some of these banks on here. Activision Blizzard, as I said in the annual report and at the meeting last year, he did say it was a complete 100% arbitrage deal. They said, I think at the time, he had like a $20 upside per share on 51 million shares or 52 million shares. That's a lot. It's a $4 billion. So if he gets 20% on $4 billion, that's a lot. So he saw an arbitrage deal. And keep in mind, a lot of times, he did a lot of arbitrage when he was younger because he had smaller amounts of capital, but now there's not as many arbitrage deals simply because he's operating at such a big clip right now. So keep in mind, Berkshire's huge. So in order for him to get any deals, he has to look at just the bigger companies. That's the real, he said this in multiple reports, but that's the real issue now with Berkshire's. He has all this cash, but he has to deploy it into companies that will move the needle or move the clip for Berkshire. And they're a multi-billion-dollar company. I mean, he has like $104 billion of free cash right now. I think it's 124 to 100 to 120 billion sitting there in free cash. But keep in mind, that's the freaking market cap of a lot of companies, right? So he could literally just buy companies. Like the last time I saw, he could buy out like Nike, CVS, Walgreens, Kroger, and then something. There was like 5 or 6 different companies. HP was one of them, and then I think Dell. So there was like 6 or 7 companies that he could just buy completely right now. And of course, the cash has grown, so he could buy even more. But it's just insane to think that he could buy physical, just complete companies. I mean, keep in mind, this man woke up and was like, I'm going to buy 5% of Apple, and now I believe it's like 8 or 9. I think it's 8% of Apple that he owns now. But that's that's the amount of money that we're talking about here, guys. So, arbitrage deal in Activision Blizzard. He probably trimmed his stake because it's a little bit shaky on that front, but I do think it could still pass through. Again, I'm not surprised to see some big banks here. He's been cutting them like crazy for the past couple of years even. McKesson, I didn't even know he had a position in. Taiwan was a huge issue when he bought it. I'm surprised to see I'm surprised he bought that at all, to be honest, but I'm not surprised to see a huge reduction there. But the one that's really standing out to me, guys, is that U.S. Bank. That's a huge cut, so I don't know why. I haven't seen any bad news about U.S. Bank. If you, excuse me, if you guys have any insight on why he would be selling that, that'd be cool. I'm sure somebody is going to ask him that at the meeting. I'm going to go to the meeting here in a few months, so I'll have that question in my cap and see if I can ask him why he's been selling out of U.S. Bank. He's had no issues with Bank of America. That's consistently been added to and or the top one of the top positions in the entire portfolio. So he loves Bank of America. I just wonder what the huge difference in either management or capital allocation would be from U.S. Bank to Bank of America and what makes Bank of America so much better. I don't know. I don't know banks, so I can't answer that question, but it would be a great question to ask at the meeting. Next, top positions owned by size. So again, as you can see, Bank of America is huge. So he's trimmed 91% of Bank of America. But let's take a look. Apple, not surprised here. $139 billion position. Bank of America, $36 billion position. So guys, he trimmed a pretty... So here's the thing. A 91% reduction, he owns less than $1 billion of US Bank. But right now he owns $36 billion worth of Bank of America. He did trim some Chevron, but it's still the third biggest position at $27 billion. American Express has been a long hold for him, about $27 billion. Coke, he's owned 400,000 shares for a long time. Sorry, 400 million. It's so weird. Sorry, guys. I said the wrong thing all the time because the share counts are so ridiculously large that, like, it's not a normal share count. Like, 915 billion, 560 million, 382. Like, it's insane. So, and I'm kind of bad with numbers. So, but him owning 400 million shares of Coca-Cola is insane. 915 million shares of Apple is insane. So I don't know why he owns so much Bank of America versus U.S. Bank, but Chevron is still top 3. So it's top 5 stocks right now: Apple, Bank of America, Chevron, American Express, and Coca-Cola. I'm happy to see Coke back in that top 5. For a while, U.S. Bank was there, but keep in mind, guys, he still owns a huge stake in Occidental, Kraft Heinz, Moody's, Activision Blizzard. I'm surprised to see up there in BYD. But keep in mind, guys, for a long time, Kraft Heinz was in the top 5. Moody's was in like the top 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So Moody's still, of course, top 10, same Kraft Heinz. But with the buys in Occidental Petroleum and Chevron, American Express and Coca-Cola have kind of shifted. So interesting to see. I think Apple's going to be their biggest position for forever. For a long time, it was actually Coca-Cola was the biggest, and American Express was their single biggest holding for a very long time as well, if you look back at the annual reports. But guys, just interesting to see. Selling banks, not surprised. Activision Blizzard, still one of his top 10 holdings, but a nice trim there. But U.S. Bank is getting sliced and diced. It's like Fruit Ninja over here. But guys, let me know what position surprised you. Honestly, U.S. Bank is the one that kind of caught me by surprise, but... the top 10 are Apple, Bank of America, Chevron, American Express, Coca-Cola, which is my personal favorite, Occidental, Kraft Heinz, Moody's, Activision Blizzard, and BYD. So guys, let me know if you own any of these stocks down in the comments down below. I am long Apple. I am lifelong Coca-Cola. So just for full transparency. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Remember to hit the subscribe button on my channel, That Dividend Guy. Kind of cool to see what moves Warren Buffett is making, and I hope he gets asked about that Taiwan Semiconductor trim and that massive trim on both U.S. Bank and Bank of New York Mellon. I'll be interested to see if that comes up during the meeting. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Remember to hit the subscribe button on my channel, That Dividend Guy, and when you do, hit the bell notification so you don't miss any updates, guys. I've been doing daily portfolio update. I've been doing a lot of coverage on the Silicon Valley issue. what it's been doing to the overall banking sector. And then, of course, I wanted to cover Buffett and anything else I find interesting, I'll throw out there for you guys as well. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, guys.